worker at a detention center for migrant children is behind bars, accused of sexually molesting a teenage girl at a Phoenix facility.
Authorities say it happened at the same detention center that First Lady Melania Trump visited back in June. Team 12's Jessica DeNova is live outside that facility with new details. Jessica?
Court documents show the night before the First Lady walked through the Southwest Key Programs facility to check on the condition of migrant children housed here, an employee may have walked into the room of 3 young girls, and that man is accused of touching and kissing one of the teens. Fernando Magaz Negrete, a care worker responsible for juvenile refugee children behind bars, accused of touching the breasts and vagina of a 14-year-old girl at this Valley Southwest Key Programs office. Magaz Negrete seen here during his initial court appearance Wednesday, asking the judge, "Who accuses me?" Court documents show Phoenix police responded to a call at the Central Phoenix location on July 25th. The roommates of the 14-year-old telling officers they saw Magaz Negrete kissing and inappropriately touching the teen on a late night in June. Police write of surveillance video showing the suspect walking in the area of the bedroom several times during the late hours of June 27th. But the most damning evidence against the suspect, his own words. Police say Magaz Negrete admitted to kissing victim 1 and touching her vagina over her clothing with his hand, leading to his arrest at the end of July, just days after a disturbing report from ProPublica finding in the past 5 years, police throughout the United States have responded to at least 125 calls reporting sex offenses at shelters that primarily serve immigrant children. Southwest Key responding with this statement when asked about the accusations against Magaz Negrete and what staff do to ensure the security of the children it houses. When a child tells of inappropriate behavior, we immediately call law enforcement and start an internal investigation as appropriate. Magaz Negrete faces aggravated assault, molestation, and sexual abuse charges when he's due back in court Tuesday. Live in Phoenix, Jessica DeNova, 12 News.